Hare Krishna. Good morning. This is Gopinath Das, beginning a class of Srimad Bhagavatam this morning. I thought of giving a class in English this time. There would be class in English and next week Finnish and then English. So I'm testing of taking turns. But first we chant Jai Radha Madhava. Yugadharma Harinam Sankirtan Yaki Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Untitled Chapter. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Nashtaprayesu Bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, entitled Creative Impetus. And here we are on chapter 23, which is called the Sisumar Planetary Systems. And today we have verse number 3. So this is a bit long verse, and it's in prose form. Let's see. Yatha medistamba akramana pashavaha samyojitas tribhi savanairyathastanam mandalani charantyevam pagana grahadaya etasmin antarbahir yogena kalachakra ayojita dhruvam evalambhya vayu nodiryamana akalpantam parichan kramati nabhasi yatha mekhan syenadayo vayu vashaha karma saratyaha Parivartante evam chotirgana prakriti purusham samyoganugrihitaha karma nirmita gataya bhuvina patanti. The translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. When bulls are yoked together and tied to a central post or to thresh rice, they tread around that pivot without deviating from their proper positions. One bull being closest to the post, another in the middle, and the third on the outside. Similarly, all the planets and all the hundreds of thousands of stars revolve around the pole star, the planet of Maharaj Dhruva, in their respective orbits, some higher and some lower, fastened by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the machine of material nature according to the results of their fruitive acts. They are driven around the pole star by the wind and will continue to be so until the end of creation. These planets float in the air within the vast sky, just as clouds with hundreds of tons of water float in the air, or as the great Siena eagles, due to the results of past activities, fly high in the sky and have no chance of falling to the ground. Hare Krishna, welcome. So I'm giving this Bhagavatam class in English, taking turns. This time English, next Friday finish. So purport. According to the description of this verse, the hundreds on thousands of stars and the great planets such as the Sun, the Moon, Venus, Mercury, Mars and Jupiter are not clustered together because of the law of gravity or any similar idea of the modern scientists. These planets and stars are all servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda or Krishna, and according to his order, they sit in their chariots and travel in their respective orbits. The orbits in which they move are compared to machines given by material nature to the operating deities of the stars and planets, who carry out the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by revolving around Dhruva which is occupied by the great devotee Maharaj Dhruva. This is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 5.52 as follows. Yachakshuresha savita sakala grahanam raja samasta suramurti rashe sateja yasyagyaya pramati sambrita kala chakra govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, under whose control even the sun, which is considered to be the eye of the Lord, rotates within the fixed orbit of eternal time. The sun is the king of all planetary systems and has unlimited potency in heat and light. This verse from Brahma Samhita confirms that even the largest and most powerful planet, the Sun, rotates within a fixed orbit, or Kala Chakra, in obedience to the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This has nothing to do with the gravity or any other imaginary laws created by the material scientists. Material scientists want to avoid the ruling government of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore they imagine different conditions under which they suppose the planets move. The only condition, however, is the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All the various predominating deities of the planets are persons, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is also a person. The Supreme Personality orders the subordinate persons, the demigods of the various names, to carry out his supreme will. This fact is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9:10, wherein Krishna says, Maya Dhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam Hetunanena Kaunteya Jagat Viparivartate. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and non moving beings. By its rule, the manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. The orbits of the planets resemble the bodies in which all living entities are seated because they are both machines controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 1861. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddesher chunatishthati pramayan sarva bhutani yantra rudhani mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities, who are seated on as on a machine made of the material energy. The machine given by material nature, whether the machine of the body or the machine of the orbit or Kala Chakra, works according to the orders given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead and material nature work together to maintain this great universe. And not only to this universe, but also the millions of other universes beyond this one. The question how the planets and stars are floating is also answered in this verse. It is not because the laws of gravity. Rather, the planets and stars are enabled to float by manipulation of the air. It is due to such manipulations that big heavy clouds float and big eagles fly in the sky. Modern airplanes like the 747 jet aircraft work in a similar way. By controlling the air, they float high in the sky, resisting the tendency to fall to earth. Such adjustments of the air and all are all made possible by the cooperation of the principles of Purusha, male, and Prakriti, female, by the cooperation of material nature, which is considered to be Prakriti, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is considered the Purusha. All the affairs of universe are going on nicely in their proper order. Prakriti, material nature, is also described in the Brahma Samhita 544 as follows. Shristi sthiti pralaya sadhana shaktireka jayeva yasya bhuvanani bibarti durga icchanurupam api yasya chachashtate sa govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. The external potency Maya, who is of the nature of the shadow of the Chit spiritual potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, and the creating, preserving, and destroying agency of this mundane world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda in accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself. Material nature, the external energy of the Supreme Lord, is also known as Durga, or the female energy that protects the great fort of this universe. The word Durga also means fort. This universe is just like a great fort in, in which all the conditioned souls are kept, and they cannot leave it unless they are liberated by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord Himself declares in Bhagavad Gita 4:9, Janma karma tame divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam eti sarjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Thus, simply by Krishna consciousness, by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can be liberated, or in other words, one can be released from the great fort of this universe and go outside to the spiritual world. Sorry. And go outside it to the spiritual world. It is also significant that the predominating deities of even the greatest planets have been offered their exalted posts because of the very valuable pious activities they performed in previous births. This is indicated herein by the words karma nirmita gatayaha. For example, as we have previously discussed, the moon is called Jiva, which means that he is a living entity like us. But because of his pious activities has been appointed, but because of his pious activities, he has been appointed to his post as the moon god. Similarly, all the demigods are living entities who have been appointed to their various posts as the masters of the moon, the earth, Venus, and so on, because of their great service and pious acts. Only the predominating deity of the sun, Surya Narayana, is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maharaj Dhruva, the predominating deity of Dhruva Loka, is also a living entity. Thus there are two kinds of entities: the supreme entity, the supreme personality of Godhead, and the ordinary living entity, the jiva. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Katha Upanishad 2.2.13. All the demigods are engaged in the service of the Lord, and only by such an arrangement are the affairs of universe going on. Regarding the great eagles mentioned in this verse, it is understood that there are eagles so big that they can prey on the big elephants. They fly so high that they can travel from one planet to another. They start flying in one planet and land in another. And while in flight, they lay eggs that other birds hatch into other birds while falling through the air. In Sanskrit, such eagles are called shyena. Under the present circumstances, of course, we cannot see such huge birds, but at least we know of eagles that can capture monkeys and then throw them down to kill and eat them. Similarly, it is understood that there are gigantic birds that can carry off elephants, kill them, and eat them. The two examples of the eagle and the cloud are sufficient to prove that the flying and floating can be made possible through adjustments of the air. The planets, in a similar way, are floating because material nature adjusts the air according to the orders of the Supreme Lord. It could be said that these adjustments constitute the law of gravity. But in any case, one must accept that these laws are made by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So called scientists have no control over them. The scientists can falsely, improperly declare that there is no God. But this is not a fact. Hare Krishna, it was long purport. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana-salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vatsanam Padmam Langhayate Girim Yatkripata Maham Vande Shri Gurun Tinataranam Paramananda Madhvam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So I beg the humble blessings from all the Vaishnavas and seniors that are seeing this class, that I could speak from Srimad Bhagavatam with truthfully, pleasingly, and beneficially, especially for my own purification. Hare Krishna. So this verse and purport, they are very long, and explaining the purport is almost like a lecture on its own. There are so many things mentioned here. So where to start? First of all, Prabhupada always wanted to challenge the scientists, the atheistic scientists, who think that they can figure out this material world, how it is generated, how it is created just out of nowhere, and there's no God in control or anything like that. And here it is said that planets, just like clouds and these big eagles which are mentioned here in the verse, uh, they are floating in the sky just due to being able to manipulate the air. I was actually always wondering, how do the planets go around in their orbits um, in the space. How do they move? Uh, what's keeping them moving and also rotating? And to explain this as a law of gravity, with the law of gravity, that doesn't make any sense. Um, I mean, the planets have their orbits. How come they don't miss the orbit at one point and starts flowing somewhere out of this? Um, how you say it, out of this particular realm of space and go to another space, like we understand from the Western astronomy, that there are many suns, the stars are suns. How come these planets, they don't flow away from their orbits and go to the realm of another sun or something like that? uh, because there are no strings attached to anywhere. I mean, uh, um, we can see from like a roulette game. There's the middle part of the roulette, and you put it rolling on one direction, and then you have the iron ball which you uh, put rolling on another direction. Uh, and that doesn't mm, uh, roll forever. That ball, it goes to the middle moving part and takes one slot there, refuge, and game stops there. But anyway, there are so many amazing things to consider, and the thing that Prabhupada is bringing out here, scientists, they think they know it all, but if they are denying the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the existence of another demigods that are following the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then how far can they, how far can they get with their imperfect senses and being in an illusion of this material world? Already in the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, how he is putting all living entities into illusion, even great demigods and sages, they are illusioned. We can read from Srimad Bhagavatam how um, Indra, Lord Indra, the king of heaven, and Lord Brahma, the first created being, they got illusioned by the illusory potency of Krishna. Lord Brahma thought that who is this little boy killing demons and then playing with his cowherd friends? Excuse me. So, what to speak of these great demigods? Yeah. um, so, if the great demigods can be illusioned by the Supreme Lord, definitely we can understand that the ordinary living beings, like the scientists, they are illusioned by the Lord's bewildering material energy. And it was here explained how this material energy representative, goddess Durga, she's also following the orders of the Supreme Lord Krishna, uh, or Govinda, accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself. So we cannot escape this material world. Um, without being properly, authoritatively liberated from the clutches of material energy. Nor we can destroy it, because it's all conducted by ultimately the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but in with the help of uh, Goddess Durga, who is the controller of this material universe, material energy. Getting back to the verse, so here is explained how they are bulls turning um, turning a big stone to crack rice. So there are uh, there's a big stone in the middle, and from the stone comes one pole which is holding the three bulls there. And as the bulls are walking, they are attached to the pole, so they cannot wander around here and there. They have to go around the stone and move the stone so that the stone is grinding the rice. Uh, so this is compared how all the planets, they are going around uh, the the pole star. Uh, how their planets and thousands of stars. This same comparison Prabhupada also gave one time to explain the round shape of the earth. Like, um, like first of all, when Jambudvipa was described, and we can understand mm, if we go beyond the Himalayas, there are some two other mountains, and then we would see the middle part of the Jambudvipa, the Meru Mountain, the Golden Mountain, which is big downside, and it opens up uh, in the middle of Jambudvipa. Uh, but then the disciples of Prabhupada, they came up with this concern that well, if you go beyond the Himalayas, you come to China, and then Russia, and then you go around the world and a globe, and then you go to the other side of the world, and then you go still further, and you end up in the same spot where you started. So how come there's a Meru Mountain? How come we don't see the Meru Mountain, for example? Uh, Prabhupada explained in the same way, just like a bull is attached to a pole and going around the grinding stone. So our position here in the material world, here in this on this planet, is the same. So we are bound to this planet. We cannot go beyond it. So therefore, after Himalayas, mm, we end up in another part of this material globe, this planet Earth, and we can. So in that way, we are like imprisoned in the material world, imprisoned on this planet. So we cannot go beyond it, especially with the mechanical means. But as Easy Journey to Other Planets book is uh, suggesting, we can go to the other planets by worshipping that particular demigod of that particular planet. Like if we worship moon god, we can go to the moon. If we worship Surya, we can go to the sun. And this is a way to way for interplanetary travel. Hmm. So this is also this whole universe is also compared here as a machine, yantra, and Prabhupada also quotes the uh, verse from Bhagavad Gita, which explains how this whole material body is like a machine, a yantra. I've been giving uh, or conducting Antyeshtikriya ceremonies, like funeral ceremonies. Some person has died, and then I need to speak about Bhagavad Gita, about the immortality of the soul, and the soul is situated within this machine of material body, and this material body is like one time usage only. So if you switch off this machine, then mm, you cannot switch it on again. Actually, it kind of runs on its own. Well, you have to feed the machine of material body, and then put it into sleep, and exercise it, take good care of it, wash it, and so on. But since people are so much in a bodily conception of life, but these funeral ceremonies, they are good opportunities to preach what this material body is, and what this material life, or life in this material world, what is it meant for. We are meant to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and in this way make our human life successful. And this material body is like sometimes it's even compared to a car. You have different parts of the car in this material body. Um, but the main thing, well, you have to take care of the car, but the main thing is the driver, how he's using the car. Uh, and this material body, the machine, uh, first of all, like a spirit soul, it's covered by material energies, first the subtle ones, jiva soul, like here is also mentioned, even the demigods, they are jiva souls. It's covered by ahankara, the false ego, with which the Jiva soul is bewildered to think that he is something else than what he actually is. So, false ego makes us identify ourselves with the body, with the temporary body, and and then comes the other subtle elements like intelligence and mind, and then the gross elements which this material body is consisting of. Though, so there is a spiritual spark, the jiva soul, and the subtle body, and then the gross body. And at the time of death, this gross body is annihilated. But what is important is how we develop our subtle body. Like here it is mentioned uh, in the purport, Prabhupada says that those who are demigods, they are controlled. They are controlling different planets in this material world, and that means that those posts, they are very high posts, and you have to perform pious activities in order to get such a post. So that is our purpose. However we are dealing with others, and how we are using our life situation here in the material world, that's how we prepare for our future. So ultimately, we are trying to purify our subtle body, because in subtle body we have our thinking, feeling, and willing. So the purpose of our life in the material world is to manipulate the subtle body so that it becomes um, equal to Krishna's desire. We have existence in this material world because our desires are different from Krishna's. Krishna actually doesn't even want this material world to exist. And here we have descriptions how material world works. And as it is described in this chapter, Sisumar is actually um, the representative of the Supreme Lord. He appears as this Sisumar, which is dolphin, like a dolphin upside down. Next verse talks about more about this. Uh, so he comes here in the material existence also. So, but our purpose is to um, turn our desires, thinking, feeling, and willing equal to Krishna's desires. And that's how we purify our subtle body. And when the subtle body is purified, then we have no reason to exist in this material world anymore. And we can get liberation. And by purely following Krishna's orders. Just like these demigods, Durga and other demigods who are controlling different planets. Here it is said how they are following strictly Krishna's orders. So that's why they have such a big posts, because they are more like a trustees to Krishna. Was there something? I guess like mm, these different planets and different rulers of these planets, they are um, uh, due to the results of their fruitive activities, they are driven around the pole star, and I mean that they practically have their posts. But they are still in the material realm because the demigods, they still have some material desires to control over the material world, but they are turning towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like we read a lot about the battles between the demons and the demigods in the universe. So that's why when the demigods, they are in troubled by the demons, they turn to the Supreme Personality of Godhead for help. Um, so these planets, they are floating in the air with the sky, just like clouds. Mm, or as the great Siena eagles. So this is a kind of mystery for us. Uh, I wanted to conclude this class by explaining one of my personal experience. It happened one time to me in Mayapur when I was living in Mayapur, and it was an evening and I was leaving the temple. I went out from the back door there, and as I came out of the temple, I saw the guard and another person. They were just looking up like this. So they were looking at the sky, and I was wondering what's going on. And then I also looked up in the sky, and there was some really mysterious, most mysterious thing that I ever saw in my life. So very high up in the sky, I saw a kind of a, it was a kind of a rectangle thing, like a chariot or something like that, which had a little bit like flapping wings. I really cannot say what it was, but it didn't have any motions of a bird or eagle as we see how birds are flying in the sky here. But that was some kind of chariot with some slowly flapping wings, and the chariot went forward in very slow motion, just a little by little up, and it was up there in the sky, and we really couldn't tell anything what it was, but this kind of reminded me of these hyena eagles. Uh, anyway, how can you explain these things? But mm, but there are so many mysterious things in the existence in this universe that we are not able to explain. Nor do the scientists are able to explain, even though they try to give a very atheistic viewpoint of this universe, material existence. But we as devotees, we know that what is the purpose of the world, or purpose of the existence, and therefore we can take refuge of the Supreme Lord with anything, and because we have experience of how it works, and the best way to do this is of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and make our human life perfect and successful, and purify our existence in the material world, and hopefully get also Goddess Durga's mercy, and be liberated from this particular universe. It was also mentioned that Krishna is not only taking care of this universe but also other universes. So hopefully we can purify ourselves and enter the Lord Krishna's pastimes rather sooner than later, and then go back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. I can stop there. Thank you very much for uh, your patience and kindness. And I wish you a very happy Krishna conscious day onwards. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Krantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jai Nitai Kor Pramanande. Hari Hari Bol.